I'm going to show my screen. Okay. Right. So, first of all, welcome, and yes, thank you to Jan for the introduction. So, we at the Different Travel Company basically are working with various charities to run these overseas challenges. We are taking a group from World Vision out to Nepal in just a few weeks' time, and we're now planning this one to be the sort of next sort of big adventure, combining with seeing World Vision's work on the ground. So it's a really great opportunity to challenge yourself, do some fundraising, and then when you're out there, having completed the challenge, to actually get to visit and see firsthand where those sort of funds go. So it is taking place next November, so just over a year away, which means there's plenty of time to raise the funds, to get fit, to prepare yourself for this. And it really is the most amazing trip. It honestly is one of the best adventures that we do, I think. As much as I love my trekking, this adventure where you're canoeing down the river, seeing all this wildlife at such close quarters is such a really unique experience. And yeah, I'm going to run through a few photos, run through the itinerary, a little bit of what to expect. Any questions, just save them up, and because we're a fairly small group, we'll have a chat at the end and you can ask me any questions about it then. Okay, so first of all, just a little bit of a boring slide to begin with, the health and safety side of things, just to basically reassure you that if for any reason it is not safe to take you to Zambia, then we would not do so, and you would get your money back. You're not going to be liable for anything. You won't be exposed to anything. We basically follow the advice from the Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office, and if at any time they advise against non-essential travel to a destination, we would cancel the trip or postpone it if it was appropriate to do so. That could be, obviously, the last couple of years has been a lot of trips that have been cancelled or postponed because of COVID. Hopefully that's now behind us, but you know, whether it could be due to a political thing or a natural disaster or a health outbreak either here or in Zambia, should that be the case, just to basically reassure you that you're not going to be at a loss. Hopefully that won't be the case. There's no reason to think it would be. Okay, so in a nutshell, this is a bespoke trip, an exclusive fundraising adventure purely for World Vision, which means you're all going to be there basically with that same common goal. You're all going to be raising money for the same cause. So that's a great sort of way to do something like this. You've all got that point in common right from the start. Though the challenge itself is spending 4 days canoeing down the lower Zambezi River and camping as we go along its banks. And then, as I've mentioned, at the end, you get to see the work of World Vision firsthand and spend a couple of days with some of the communities that they've been helping over the last 20 years in Zambia. Pretty much everything is included, so your flights, your meals, your accommodation. Once you've hit your fundraising target, you don't really need to worry about anything else, but we'll run through that in a bit more detail further on. This slide, actually, before I go any further, gives you a really good idea as to the canoes. You can see there the wide Canadian open canoes, 2 people to a canoe, and absolutely everything that we need with us is carried with us in these canoes down the river. So your tents, your food, the campfires, your sleeping mats, obviously your own personal kit bags and everything. You really don't need any experience. The water is literally like this all the way, so you're not on any rapids. It's not whitewater canoeing or anything like that. Yeah, if you have never canoed before, if you've never been on the water, that's absolutely fine. You don't need to worry. You will be given full instruction and everything when we get out there. So a little bit about the Zambezi and a little Google Maps image here just to show you whereabouts we're going. That's Zambia, the map of Zambia there. It's Africa's 4th largest river, and it actually runs through 6 countries on its way from Africa to the Indian Ocean. It's a very powerful river. It has carved the Victoria Falls and the Batoka Gorge, but we're not canoeing in that bit, so don't worry. We're actually in the lower Zambezi area, which is Zambia's newest national park. And it has got a really good range of animals. It's not got the big 5. It's not got as many animals as some of the others, but the opportunities to get close to the animals are basically second to none. Because you're on the water at the level with the animals, you are absolutely guaranteed to see loads and loads of elephants, hippos, kudu and various other types of gazelle and deer, crocodiles. They will kind of disappear when they hear you coming. They're not really a danger, and well, they are a danger if you were to jump out of the canoe into the water, but you won't be doing that. There are big cats. You're not so likely to see them, but you are likely to hear them. You often hear them, like when you're around the campfire in the evening, you'll hear the lions roaring in the distance, which is quite amazing. It's just an absolutely fantastic experience to see the animals very close up. So the itinerary, we will be leaving on Friday the 1st, and it will be almost certainly an overnight flight to Lusaka, the capital of Zambia. And then once we get there, it's a transfer of about 3 hours to get us down to Chirundu, which is the town on the lower Zambezi, which is where effectively base camp. That's where we spend the first night in a permanent campsite. The photo here is the dining area. You can see the tents along the side. There's a proper toilet and shower block, and we will have a nice dinner, hot showers, a chance to meet the team, have that initial briefing, and basically get yourself ready to set off on the canoeing adventure the following morning. So then we spend the next 3 Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, the next 3 full days and a little bit of the 4th day canoeing on the lower Zambezi. So typically we will start the day early. When you're camping, you tend to get up with the sun, and also it's a lot cooler in the morning, so we tend to set off after breakfast fairly early in the morning. It's both cooler and it's the better time of the day to spot game as well. We'll be paddling downstream all the way. There's nothing upstream, it's all downstream, and we will be making plenty of stops to view the animals. We might get out of the water and walk along the shore a little bit. We will be stopping for lunch. Generally, we take a long lunch in a sheltered spot to avoid the heat of the day. And then we'll get back on the river later on in the afternoon to carry on paddling downstream to get to the point where we set up camp. We would always stop before it gets dark to set up camp in daylight. And it would either be on the banks of the river or on a small island. They will take water out of the river so that you've got water there for washing. Very basic hole in the ground style toilet. There's absolutely no facilities. These are not campsites. It is literally wild camping as we go. But having said that, the team that travel with us are absolutely fantastic. They cook the most amazing meals. They will help you pitch your tents if you need to. They'll set up a campfire so you've got somewhere to sit around in the evening. We are very well looked after. So a little bit more about these canoes. As I mentioned, they are 2-man Canadian style canoes made of fiberglass, and they are very, very stable. They really do not capsize. In all the years we've been running these trips for about 18 years now, we've never ever had anybody capsize. They're completely safe. All the gear is carried in them, as you can see, so we really don't want people capsizing, and we wouldn't be doing it that way if they were liable to capsize. You'll need to bring a fairly small squidgy kit bag, you can see at the bottom slide here, for your overnight things and your sleeping bag and anything you need to take with you, because that will be carried in the canoes. Once they're in the canoes and they're loaded up for the day, you won't really have access to that, so you will also need a little small dry bag or a tiny little backpack or something to have in the canoe with you, which carries all the things you will need during the day. So water, suntan lotion, maybe sun hats, anything like that as well. As we've already mentioned, you will see plenty of wildlife along the way, particularly hippos and elephants are the main animals that you will see in abundance, but plenty of other things as well. And as you can see from these photos, you do get nice and close. The guides that are with us are all wildlife rangers, so they know exactly the signs to look for, how to behave safely with the animals, and you feel in very, very safe hands with them. They know that stretch of river like the back of their hands, and they know exactly where to go and how to sort of act and behave around the animals to keep safe. So the camping are these basic 2-man tents, which are, say, 2 people to a tent. So sleeping bags and sleeping mats are provided. All you need to bring with you is a sleeping bag liner, and we do give you a full kit list so that you know exactly what to bring and what to bring with you in advance of it. Bathroom facilities are pretty much non-existent for those nights when we're on the river. There will literally be a hole in the ground style toilet, so you will need to bring your own toilet paper, and it's also worth bringing a supply of like nappy sacks or dog poo bags. When you're at camp, there will be a bin which we will burn a lot of the rubbish, and any other rubbish we will be taking out with us. But obviously during the day, like when we stop for lunch or anything like that, you might just need to pop it in a bin bag, in a little their little nappy sack or a dog poo bag, just so that we're not leaving any rubbish behind. Also bring baby wipes and antibacterial hand gel, because there won't always be water. What you can't do on this trip is go and wash your hands in the river, because that is where there is the risk of crocodiles and other things like that. You can only use the water when they have taken it out the river and provided it to you in a bucket, which we will do in the evenings, but not necessarily at all the stops along the way. So the food and drink, we have the guides are also our camp cooks, and they are fantastic at really creating the most amazing meals out of everything that they've been carrying along the river with them. Pretty good at dealing with any dietary requirements, so vegetarian, vegan, gluten-free, as long as we know. There's obviously on the booking form a little box for you to fill in if you do have any dietary requirements. Please do let us know in advance so that we can prepare for that accordingly. The water, they generally bring all this blue thing here has got these water containers, so they bring a lot of water with us. Occasionally, if they need to, water might be boiled and filtered, which is equally safe, but generally speaking, it is actually brought with us a whole load of sterile water that is in these containers, kept cold, and we use that for both drinking water and also for cooking and for washing the salad and the fruit and things like that along the way. A few more photos here. So the top photo there is the guide giving a briefing before we set off on the river. The next photo along this, actually, that was on the trip I did last August. You can see these mats on the ground. This is where we've been sitting having our lunch, and we suddenly look behind us and we've been joined by a herd of elephants who were quite happy having their lunch as well, just munching away on the bushes and the trees. And we just retreated, kept a safe distance from them, and we just stood there watching them for about an hour or so while they just had their lunch and then sauntered off. It was really amazing, but that just shows you quite how close that we were to them. And then the bottom photo is just a beautiful, every sunset's a beautiful sunset on the Zambezi, and this is where they're cooking everything on the fire in the evening. So back to the itinerary. So we've had 3 full days on the river, and then after our third night, we get up and we have possibly a little bit of a canoe. If not, we might already, it depends how we've got on during the previous days, we might be picked up by speedboat from that final night's campsite, and we head back up the river to Chirundu, to the point where we set off on that first day. So that normally takes an hour, hour and a half or whatever to go back up the river at quite high speed to get back to where we started. And we will there join the vehicles that will be waiting to take us up to Conway, which is where we're going to be visiting the projects, and it's going to be our base for the final few nights of the trip. So 2 full days where we will be visiting World Vision projects in that area. Now, obviously, it's very early stages of planning at this stage. As we get closer to the trip, Jan and the team at World Vision will be in contact with their team out in Zambia, and we will be finalising the details of exactly what you're going to be doing, where you're going to be going on those 2 days. For those 2 days, we're in a nice, fairly comfortable hotel. So you'll be back in twin share rooms with air conditioning and ensuite facilities. So you'll have a level of comfort for those days as well. And then the final day is when we head back to Lusaka and go to the airport for the return flight. So obviously don't quite know yet what the flight schedules will be. It could be an overnight flight getting back into the UK the following day. So it possibly could be the Sunday that you land back in the UK. We are offering an option to extend your trip, because it would, in my opinion, be a huge shame to go all the way to Zambia and not get a chance to visit Livingstone and Victoria Falls. At this stage, we do need a certain number of people realistically to make that viable. It is viable for 1 or 2 people, but the costs would be a lot higher. So we've kind of got some options that we're looking at based on maybe 5 or 6 people as a minimum. At this point, all we're asking you to do is register your interest when you sign up for the trip. And then when we get to the point of booking the flights, which will probably be early in the new year, in January, that's when we will finalise those details, and we'll be able to say to you, okay, there's 6 people wanting to do this, and this will be the cost, and we can firm it all up with you then. So at this point, just please let us know if that is something you're interested in doing. Okay, so a few questions then that you might have. communication. There is actually some phone signal, not all the time, but there is a little bit of phone signal, mobile phone signal when you're on the Zambezi. Obviously, we can't guarantee that. There is Wi-Fi available both in Chirundu, where we start and finish the canoeing trip, and also in the hotel at the end for the projects as well. One thing you do need to arrange yourself is travel insurance, and that is because it will vary depending on things like your age, your medical background. Some people already have an annual policy that may well cover you for this. The main thing is just make sure you are covered for the activities you're doing. If you're stuck, then we work with a company called Campbell Irvine, who completely guarantee cover for all of our trips. So if you do take out their policy, we know for sure that you are covered for absolutely everything that you'll be doing. And there's the link there. There is also the link on our website to find out more about that if you wish to do so. There is a minimum age limit of 18. However, we do allow sort of 16 plus if they're accompanied by a parent or guardian. Absolutely no upper age limit at all on these trips. If you have any medical conditions, then chances are you'll be absolutely fine to take part. There is a medical form as part of the booking form, which you do need to complete, and you do need to declare any medical conditions. It may be necessary to get a form signed by your GP if there is something that we're unsure about, but please be honest. It's very important that we are aware of any conditions so that our team out there know what to do should there be an incident or should something happen while you're out there canoeing. So we talked about the luggage a little bit. On the canoe safari, your luggage will actually be carried in the canoes with you. So you will need to pack it in a waterproof kit bag, or you don't need to go out and buy a brand new waterproof one. You can use a regular kit bag and put your clothing in bin bags or something inside. There's all different options. And then you will also need a small day bag or a dry bag to have in the canoe, sort of in the footwell with you, which has got the things that you will need access to during the day. Now, everything else, all your luggage from the flight and anything you want to keep for the project days, or if you're going to do the extension at the end, that will be safely locked up in Chirundu and left there. And then once we finish the canoeing and we're back in Chirundu, that's when you'll be reunited with it ahead of our journey to Kimba. So you can sort of see here the sort of bags that people have packed. These are the kind of kit bags that you'll be looking at having with you. The climate. November is a really good time to visit Zambia. There may be a little bit of rain. It is starting to get towards the rainy season, but it's generally fairly good. Temperatures range from between 18 to 30, an average of around 25. So kind of a really nice English summer's day kind of weather. It doesn't get too cold at night, but it is still a little bit chilly. It can, obviously, these are kind of average temperatures. And as we're all aware at the moment, in particular, average doesn't seem to exist anymore. Our sort of monthly temperatures everywhere in the world seem to be going either side of average. We do recommend bringing some warm layers to the evenings, but there'll be fairly low and calm levels of water on the river, so perfect for the canoeing. And if anything does sort of happen that makes us need to change the itinerary, then the guides will assess the situation and sort of make those decisions so that the group are both safe and able to enjoy it to a maximum. You do not need any canoeing experience at all. They are very easy to operate, if that's the word. They are so these wide canoes, single paddles. The person at the back basically is the one steering and giving direction to the person at the front. If there's somebody who's not so confident, we will always look to pair you up with somebody who's more confident. There will be an opportunity to be paired with the guide or our tour manager if somebody really isn't feeling that confident at all. Obviously, if you do want to do any practice, that's fantastic, just to maybe make yourself familiar and give yourself more confidence on the water. There are plenty of places in the UK where you can go and do a half day canoeing experience and have that sort of behind you should you wish to. We've graded it moderate in terms of the level of challenge, and that isn't so much the physical activity, but it's more the fact that you are out there for long days canoeing. So 4 days you will be canoeing for sort of 7-8 hours a day. Huge, say, wide-ranging temperatures. The conditions are very basic when we're camping. So those are kind of all the criteria that have led us to grade this as a moderate challenge. And that would sort of be compared to if you were going to go and do something like Kilimanjaro. That would be an extreme challenge where you're trekking for very long days at altitude with sort of sub-zero temperatures. This is still a physical challenge, but it is more of a moderate one, and that's sort of how I reflected in its grading. From a safety point of view, life jackets are supplied. We have had people do this trip who can't swim. That is not a problem at all. You don't need that. You're not going to be in the water. You're going to be on the water, but life jackets are supplied. The distance that we're paddling is roughly 12 to 28 kilometres each day. However, that is all downstream, so it's not necessarily as arduous as it sounds. Some of it can be quite leisurely. You might buddy up and we'll like raft the canoes together and just drift for a little way. Other times, if the wind picks up, you are actually having to paddle quite determinedly to get to the direction that you need to be, whether that be to the left or the right or what have you, as the guide will direct you. There's absolutely no rapids. All the waterfalls and the rapids are higher up in the upper Zambezi, so above the Victoria Falls. We're on that lower stretch, and the water levels are actually kept fairly constant by reservoirs and dams that are further upstream. So this challenge really just kind of is to say who is right for this challenge. Anybody. We get such a wide variety of people taking part in these challenges. It's always incredible. All ages, people doing it for all different kinds of reasons. It's one of those great levelers. Once you're on this trip, you become a team and you're really united as a team, and people from all different backgrounds are sort of thrown together and actually really enjoy each other's company. So on to the nitty gritty of how much does it cost. There are two elements. So the first element is a registration fee. That is £365, and that is what you need to pay directly yourself at the time you book. So if you were to sign up tonight, you would go onto our booking form online and pay that amount to sign up. And you've then got a couple of options as to how to fund the rest of the trip. First option is fully sponsored, in which case you are asked to fundraise a minimum of £5,100 for World Vision. Out of that, 4,100 does need to be raised by August next year, and the remaining 1,000, you've got a little bit longer. You can do that by the time the trip departs in November. The other option is that you can actually pay for the trip cost yourself, which is basically half of that amount, so 2,550. And then once you pay for that yourself, you are asked to still fundraise a minimum of 2,550 for World Vision. So the charity are still receiving that amount. Out of that amount of fundraising, minimum 2,050 must be received by August, and then the remaining 500. So it's literally half of those figures above. The actual trip costs are due to be paid to us 10 weeks before departure. So if you are going for that option, you'll have to pay that balance of the trip costs at that point directly to us. Just a little note that those trip costs are based on the final group size and are subject to change. So if this trip does incredibly well and we end up with 25 people signed up, it will actually be a little bit lower than that you need to pay. So we kind of give you the worst case scenario there. And what's included for that? So your return flights from London to Lusaka, and that will include airport taxes, airline fuel supplements. There's nothing over and above that to pay. All your transport in Zambia, all your accommodation, all your meals, the national park fees, the local English-speaking guides, the full support crew that are with us, a tour manager from our company will go with you to look after you as well. Things that aren't included, generally it's personal things, so personal expenses. So for example, when you're in the hotel, there's nothing to buy when you're on the river, obviously, but when you're in the hotel, you might want to drink with your evening meal. There will be the odd opportunity to buy souvenirs and things like that. Any vaccinations that you need. We are not officially allowed to offer medical advice because we're not medics. However, we do give you some information in the dossier, and our advice is to go and check with your GP well in advance so that they can give you the relevant advice for you as to what you will need by way of vaccinations. For example, for Zambia, chances are you'll be recommended to take anti-malarial tablets as well, and the doctor will be able to look at your medical background and give you advice on what's best for you in that department. Travel insurance, we've already mentioned. Tipping, now obviously tipping is entirely optional. However, our experience is that you get such a fantastic support and you get such a good relationship that you build up with the local team. People generally do like to give a nice tip. Round about £50 to £60 seems to be the amount that at the moment most people feel they want to give, but completely optional, entirely up to you. Your personal kit and equipment, there's not a huge amount. Even sleeping bags and sleeping mats are provided on this one, but we do give you a kit list so that you will know exactly what you do need to bring. Zambian visas, now this kind of fluctuates. At the moment, they're not requiring them, but sometimes they do. They seem to sort of have these windows where they say, great, all nationalities, including British, we don't need a visa. But it is a possibility that you may need a visa, we will keep you posted on that, is all we can say. But should you need a visa, generally speaking, for Zambia, it's always been very easy to get on arrival for a very low cost of maybe $20–25. But we'll let you know the situation on that nearer the time. And then the support. Well, you will get support from the World Vision team, as Jan will talk about in a moment, to support you throughout your fundraising. From our point of view, we've got the kit list. You'll get a full trip dossier, which gives you all the ins and outs, a training guide, some discount vouchers to use, and a lot more besides. When you're on the trip, we've got a brilliant English-speaking local team who look after you very, very well, and there will be a first aid trained tour manager from Different Travel looking after you as well throughout the trip. We'll do a pre-departure meeting as well, so a couple of months before you go. This might be in person. We've been talking about that. It really depends where the team are based. It may be online if you're all spread out across the country, but it will be a chance to actually really meet all the team that are going to be travelling together and your Different Travel tour manager as well. Okay, so I might hand over to Jan at this point, but just to give you some ideas of how to fundraise and how to possibly break that down. Did you want to chip in here, Jan?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Sarah. Super excited hearing all those details. Sarah very well talked through how the costings work and that opportunity to either come as a full fundraiser or a flexi, or in fact to pay the whole way yourself. But in order to support you, we have just kind of just to try and help, because I know it can seem a daunting amount of money. And what we found is, as Sarah said, one of the reasons why we're promoting the trip now, a year in advance, is to make it feel achievable in terms of the fundraising, whether you're going for the half the amount or the full amount. So these are just some examples. Some other things I might add in is increasingly from our fundraising team, people are raising money through selling things on eBay. That's quite a popular way these days to raise money. Obviously I think this is right. Yeah, between now and then, you will have a birthday. I think that's true because we're over a year in. So again, birthdays are a good way to think about raising some money. When you sign up, we'll send you a fundraising pack which gives you some ideas. There's some ideas listed here, but it gives you lots more ideas for the sort of things that you might be able to do to fundraise. And we'll also send you a World Vision t-shirt, which you can use in your fundraising events, but also use when we go there. It's a technical t-shirt that sports vest that will be good for wearing and is good to promote things when you're doing any fundraising. We have a fundraising officer, Sandra Nwoke, who unfortunately is off sick today, so she couldn't be here, but she will be your contact to be able to support you and help you set up a Just Giving page, which is the most useful way to make sure the funds come directly to World Vision, and we'll help you set that up if you need to, and we'll give you some blurb to use and some nice photos so that people know the challenge that you're undertaking. And I think, yeah, there's enough details on that slide with the amounts. So I'm very happy to I'll just pass back to Sarah for a couple more slides, but we can, if you've got questions around the fundraising, then I can answer those at the end.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So yeah, the last couple of slides are really just how to sign up. So the link will be on World Vision page and probably on an email that Jan will send you as well. Once you get to the page, you just click on that Book Now button, and you will get taken through to the booking form. There is quite a lot of information on there, but don't worry, we don't need all of that at the time that you sign up. If you don't have your passport to hand and your insurance, that's fine. You can go back and add that later. All you initially need to firm up your place is your name and your contact details and what have you. This was really just not going to talk too much about these because obviously you're all here to hear about Zambia, but there are a couple of other options as well that we will be talking about over the coming couple of weeks, and we'll be able to send you more information on any of those should one of those appeal, either instead of or as well as the Zambia adventure. And yeah, any questions? So what I'm going to do is stop sharing. And shall I stop recording at this point, Jan, just so that people can then chat a little bit more
Sure.
naturally?
Yes. I
And
think that
I will
makes
do
sense.
that. And
Yeah.
for those who are listening to the recorded, thank you for joining us. And if you have any questions, feel free to send an email over to myself or Jan.